Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, whether you're joining us in real time or you're watching after the fact, you do you. My name is Andrea Thompson. I'm the founder and director of the Film Girl Film Festival, which is in its closing weekend now. Today, the 31st, is the last day. So run tonight to 7 p.m. USCT in Chicago for the Music Box, or run to our website, filmgirlfilm.com, where you can watch the lovely films of all the ladies that are joining me here, and I will let them go and introduce themselves and what film they are directing in the festival. So, Graciela, could you kick things off, please?
Yes, hello, good night. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Andrea, so much for the invitation. So, my name is Graciela Mantuanelli. I'm from Brazil and I'm directing the film called Cibernéticas. It's a play word with cybernetics, because cybernetics is a male word in Portuguese. So, I just mix it up a little bit and make it a female word. So, and the film is about woman and technology.
Thank you, Francisca.
Hello, my name is Francisca Siza. I came from Portugal. I've directed the movie Daughters of Maguey, that is about an association of women in Mexico that fought for more visibility in the mezcal industry that was dominated by men. And they made that women could have their own brands, their own life, and their own social and economic security.
And last but not least,
Hi, thank you for having me. I am live from Denmark, but I have roots in the Dominican Republic. I did a documentary about citizenship in Denmark. Currently, we're the second most happy country in the world, but one thing that people don't know is that this happiness doesn't necessarily apply for people with my no, with ethnic minority backgrounds. So that's what I'm trying to shine a light on, how it is to become a Danish citizen and the cost of that.
thank you. And last but not least, Taylor, thank you for joining us. We're just going around and introducing ourselves and the film we directed. And yeah, I saw not only have you joined us, but we get a free cat in the bargain. So
Yes.
saw him in the background. So please, introduce yourself and your film.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andrea. Sorry about the delay. I was hanging out in another
No worries.
link for a bit. My name's Taylor Yoakum. My film is called These Flowers Were For You. It is a kind of experimental documentary about my experience being matched as a bone marrow donor and like working my way through that emotionally with looking at family history of my mom losing her mom to the same disease that my recipient had, and creating an artwork through it.
Thank you. Like
Yeah.
one thing I've noticed about your films is all your films is a general theme is each of you is making about a film about a situation that may be familiar, maybe what we've seen before, on screen, but the perspective definitely is not. So, Graciela, sorry, I mispronounced your name, didn't I? Sorry, can you
No,
remind
no,
me?
Graciela. It's
Graciela. Oh, okay,
yes,
thank you.
it's perfect.
Like the tech world, to me, from my perspective anyway, it's not that other industries aren't savagely sexist, but the tech world, even though it's increasingly important to everybody's life and future, it seems to me one of the last industries that is very openly savagely sexist, very hostile to women. So I'd like your perspective on why you think that specific industry, why is that with that specific industry?
It's there's two things that I feel that is very interesting to punctuate about the tech universe. It's that the beginning of the tech, it's all about the woman. Women
Same
were
with film,
doing
really. A woman directed the first film.
women were doing everything, the most things. As soon because it was an experimental field, so there was no money involved, not a lot of money involved. So it's okay to give to the woman to do it. As soon the money starts to get in and the power became important in the industry, the woman started to be relegated to positions that the it wasn't very significant in the status in the world. So they a lot of the inventions of women is, sometimes doesn't have like they don't give the credit. You know, you saw a lot of this his stories around the scientific world, and this
And the
is one
film
aspect.
too.
Yes, this is not different in every area. I think when have the money and the power, okay, let's push the woman away and start to the men start to build another area. So the second thing that I feel that is very important about the tech work is the projection that we have from the future's generations. And they assume that the tech world will have most of the jobs, and in a country as Brazil that we have a huge differences, the social differences is very huge, and especially women. Usually here, they are they they support their families with a very small income, and because of that, they most of women have less opportunity to grow in their careers and have a better incomes, and most a lot of women doesn't have opportunities to go to university because we have a very huge issue about girls getting pregnant too soon. So and because of that, and because of we have a lot of women outside of the tech world, and most of the jobs will be in the tech world, we start to see a big abyss in front of us. Because if a woman doesn't start studying about technology and all the fields that technology involve, they will be a part of the job area. So it will be harder to have jobs, and harder to have careers, and harder to have incomes to sustain their families.
Mhm.
So it's a big issue in a country we have so many difference, economical difference. I'm sorry if I'm not, my English is rusty.
Mm-mm. No, I think it's pretty clear, and a lot of, like I said, a lot of it sounds familiar. So, um, Jen, speaking of a lot of facets of society, Jennifer, I had a question for you. Like, thank you so much for your film as well, because you mentioned earlier that you're located in Denmark, like the second happiest country, and this film I feel like is quite important because your film Almost Happy is about um, someone a man Hassan struggling to get his citizenship, and that's a problem we generally don't associate with Denmark, which has a reputation not just for happiness but liberalism. So, why did you? What led you to find this story, and why did you decide to make a film out of it?
Yeah, I think firstly it came from rage. I found that anger is my muse. When I see injustice, that's like it starts bubbling and then it canals its way into some sort of artsy platform. This time it was a movie. Um, Before I met Hassan, I wanted to portray people who were either third generation immigrants. In Denmark, you can be an immigrant for a long time because you need either one or two parents to be Danish citizens. So if you have two people who are born and raised don't have Danish citizenship, their kid will not have a Danish citizenship either. So you can just have a line, all born and raised in Denmark, but without um, perceived or having papers of being Danish citizens. And I was surprised that he did not have a Danish citizenship. I was not aware of many things before I met him, that when you don't have a Danish citizenship, a gray passport. It's called an alien passport. The system tries in many different ways to make you feel unwelcome. He was here. His parents fled Somalia and met a refugee. And due to their circumstances, they didn't think about applying for Danish citizenship because they wanted to go back to Somalia when the war, the situation would not be nice for them. But that never happened. They had 5 time when they turned 18. They were not anymore under their parents' um, like permit to be in Denmark. And then he had to start applying himself. So when I met him, he's been trying to get Danish citizenship for 10 years since he was 18.
Wow. Yeah, that is
and
a long
it's a lot
time
of
to
stress.
try to be perfect, as he said, because he cannot take a single step out of line.
Exactly. So making this film too, hard to finding the fine line between having facts and then having feelings. So that's why I made a timeline trying to keep the audience afloat with the story of him, like from the age of 18, 2 weeks before he receives a letter from the Danish government saying you have 2 weeks to start applying for residency, otherwise we will send you back to some country he has never been in. And I think that is very much the side of Denmark that the majority are not being exposed to, is that this happiness or equality or welfare system we're known is only for the few. As soon as you step out of your life is very much different. Here showed that Denmark is the fourth country towards people from the African continent or from with African diasporas. So that's also another side. He being a man and also not having Danish citizenship just puts him in a really fragile position. So I want to portray his story as a person who has nuances and has hopes and dreams, because usually when we see films about citizenships, at least in Denmark, we also need to ask the question of who is portraying who. Is it a person that's a part of the majority who's portraying somebody who is in the system, or is it a person like myself who, although I have Danish citizenship, knows some of the factors in terms of not being. So with the film as well, I've been touring the country and trying to set it up with panel talks to use it as a starting point of conversation and ask the question saying, when are you allowed to be here?
Most definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Francisca, your film is also about something we don't really hear about, that of women trying to kind of in Portugal, trying to kind of break this all male monopoly in the production of agave, a very important tradition, correct?
Yes, this
And
is in Mexico.
oh, right, my
Uh,
bad. Sorry, that's
that's
so many
okay.
details. So how did you run into this story, and how did you encounter this, and why did you decide to make this remarkable film about it?
So the agave distillates, this is a beverage for those who don't know, like tequila. Mezcal is the main drink. This is an ancestral drink from Mexico, and there was a big boom from mezcal, for the selling of mezcal, especially in the United States in the last 5 years. Um, I met. This is about an association of women who fought for for better life conditions and visibility in this industry in Mexico. And I met Yolanda Ruiz, who is the president of this association. I met her in a job I did 3 years ago, and we were talking, and she just told me the story of this women's association and what they do to improve the lives of so many families and women around Mexico, because in rural Mexico, almost every family does mezcal, like small amounts of mezcal, small brands, and a lot of families live from this. They are very poor, but they live from producing and selling small amounts of mezcal. Mezcal is the same as tequila, but it's 100% handmade. And so Yolanda, this the president just told me how for the last 20 years they are fighting in the National Congress to pass laws to protect these women from against violence, against that men just go to their small fabrics and take them everything. So they just been fighting for 15 years to pass laws to protect them. The vice presidents also actually they tried to kill her 2 times because they
Jeez.
were just, yes, they were just messing with some something so structurally implement that it was the machismo in this industry that they had to take this to National Congress. So they tried to kill her 40 times, and they never stopped fighting, and they made it. Now there are laws to protect the women, the family, the small rural families have are selling their mezcal for a fair price. They actually are implementing a sustainable system for the agave. So the boom industry of mezcal doesn't kill all the rural parts of agave. So they are just working together as an association from all Mexico to create this better structure for all women and families.
Thank you for drawing attention to this very much. And
Yeah.
last but not least, Taylor, your short film also is a very different perspective on organ donation, and it is your own it is your own decision to do so. So obviously, you mentioned before you ran into this story because you volunteered to do this because it was the same disease your mother had died from, correct?
Actually, my mom's mom. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, my
Yeah.
bad.
No, you're all good.
So why did you decide to make a film about it?
Yeah, so the Be the Maps, the organization I went through does fairs like donation drives, so you just like swab your cheek and then you forget about it. It had been 10 years. I was texted one day when I was at work that they found a match for the recipient, and so I was really scared back and forth because it was like it would be a taxing procedure. Spoiler alert, I ended up being the second best match, so they had me on call in case the primary donor got COVID. So I was kind of like in this weird in between, and I hope the film kind of reflects that. But yeah, I kind of like thought a lot about the morality of it, and I just wanted to like be there for the stranger. And I was thinking a lot about the idea of like altruism in regard to this, because like at the end of the day, like you would feel good doing it, but also like there's no chance you'd be able to like there's a chance you would never be able to see the person you met. So it was just like it was a lot of back and forth, but it was a really intense decision to make. But I felt like if I was chosen, it would be like the wrong thing not to go forward. So that's why I stuck with it.
Okay, thank you. Glad you
Yeah,
did, and glad I could promote this kind of story and spread the word about it.
thank you.
And Graciela, I wanna ask more about your topic. Like your documentary obviously goes into this, and you mention yourself all the obstacles women face when they wanna like work in tech, and this isn't just unique to your country. So what do you think keeps women who are interested in this going in the face of so many obstacles, like both like structurally, corporate, and societally? Why do they still continue? Oh, you're muted.
We as women, we are resilient, right?
Hmm.
We need to be. But the one thing that I could see and that I felt that is very interesting because I did a lot of interviews, not only the interviews that it's shown in the movie. I did some for the podcast and some that I didn't put in public because were more about my investigation. And when I'm doing a documentary, I like to say that my film is like a thesis, and then I have I have the hypothesis, and then I have the results. And one thing that I notice at most of the women that is in a good place in their careers, they have the opening from their fathers saying like, you can do it, you can do whatever you want, you are capable of doing it.
And that's
It's
something in the film world too. Most of the first women who won awards had connections. Sophia Coppola and,
but
James
it's
Cameron's,
I think
yeah.
it's not only about the connection, but it's a
Catherine
lot.
Bigelow is James
It's
Cameron's ex. Yeah.
it's a lot of about also a place that the women can see themselves doing it. That is not what society imposed, because the father figure said that she's able to do it. It's more common to see women prosper when there is this person saying, the father figure saying, you can do it. And then most of them went to a male career, and then they realize later that it's a male career. They never stopped thinking about it, if she's a woman or it's not a place for a woman.
Mm.
So it's not a general thing, but it was a coincidence that appeared in a lot of the stories that I heard.
Mm.
I cannot affirm that it's how it happens, but a lot of the stories, the father figure opens the window, the door. So as a society, we need to open the door for the girls,
Definitely.
not only the father figure. We need to do as a society.
Well,
So
thank you for your answer, even if it's a bit depressing. And Jennifer, but glad there were some supportive fathers that you noticed, supportive men. Jennifer, I have a similar question for you. Um, what do you think? You mentioned Hassan had to do this for like a decade. So, what do you think kept sustained him throughout this journey? Just like seeing, not just trying to get his citizenship, and seeing so much of what he could achieve and what he wanted out of his reach, just out of his reach, and having to basically, I mentioned earlier, that behave like a perfect human being this whole time. And so what kept him going and kept him sane, do you think?
Well, when I met him, he had a hard time letting me in, which makes sense because I was
Mhm.
asking hard questions. He had divided his life parts. One which was the happy Hassan, the one that uh, meeting work every day, would bake cookies when he did, would be the good friend, the loving son. And then there was the other one who was lonely and trying to figure out his situation with his citizenship by himself. And he said that if he was to combine those, which is what I think happened in the process of us filming, then he would be aware how fragile his situation was. So a way for him to maintain sane and trying to be positive, which is a big part of his DNA, he had where he felt like he had to divide it. Because if he was in the mindset of the citizenship all the time, which was always in the back of his head, it would be it would be too urgent. Everything would seem silly next to it. But as he says in a scene, he says that having the citizenship over his head, he already had issues sometimes with friends, and his work could also be a hassle. And he could also have a roomie who would be annoying. And then on top of that, he would have to worry whether or not he would become a Danish citizen. So to your question, I think that, well, also having a good social network as well. he did have some good people that let in, but it was trying to divide those two. And in the process, I think I was filming him for maybe 2.5 years. Like the first year or so, he had some issues with letting me in. And
Mm-hmm.
he would sometimes say, well, I can just step out of it if I'm not comfortable with the film. And I think you know that at some point you've been filming for such a long period of time that both are invested in the project, both the character, the main character, but also you as a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So we
It
had
becomes
to
so
revisit it
personal,
and
I bet.
ask, sorry?
Oh, I said it becomes so personal, I bet.
Yeah. So we had to
Mhm.
revisit it and ask and talk about what is it that's at stake. And for you who haven't seen the film, I'm sorry, but luckily he became a Danish citizen. Easy to see him flourish after the film is done. Now he travels the country with me to promote his story, but also to be maybe more angry, not in the same state that I've been angry on his behalf, but being angry in the way that the system has been treating him. In Denmark, the politicians have this, some have this feeling of that people need to be grateful to become Danish citizens. But the thing is that if you've been fighting for 10 years, when does gratefulness stop? I mean, it's not easy to gain citizenship. People work really hard to get it, and so much is at stake all the time. Yeah. So for him, I think it's trying to divide those two, and then also have just a small group of people to be honest with. But every time that he would get rejected or something would go wrong in the process, the close ones would know what was
Mm-hmm.
happening and then feel he wasn't ready to be let down in their eyes as well. So I think he's been spending a lot of time by himself and to figure out what was happening and trying to navigate his feelings.
Mm, thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad I could do my part in sharing this story. And
Thank you so much for this platform. It's amazing.
thank you. And Francisca, I want to address the same question to you and your film subjects because everybody in this discussion, like whether they're discussing themselves or other people, they faced a lot of obstacles in achieving their ends. And the women in your documentary, you mentioned violence, the assassination attempts, and there was a lot of potential for that kind of violence to be inflicted on many of your subjects, and many of them did experience violence for what they did. So just simply trying to make a living, basically doing what they loved and what was a long tradition. So what do you think kept them going? I'd like your insight on that.
I think opening a path for the next generation don't have to go through that. I think that's the most important thing for them is opening a way for their daughters and their granddaughters don't pass through that violence or through that scary feeling or everything. Do you know that in South America and in Latin America, there are still young girls being sold by cows, sold to older men in exchange by cows because they are so poor. And this is still a tradition in Latin America. So to see how the women are dealt in rural Latin America is still very scary. But with association of women like this, they are just making aware the higher people from society that this is happening and this can be changed. So if they fight, if they pass through this, maybe their daughters don't have to pass through this. Like myself, for example, or like all of us, like being a woman filmmaker, um, it was not easy like 50
Mm-hmm.
years ago, but because a lot of women fought for us, we have the opportunity to be here. We have the opportunity of having a festival just for us and to show our project. This is amazing for me. This is very grateful that my grandmother or your grandmothers fought for us, fought for art,
Definitely.
fought for film, and fought in all aspects of society. We there were women fighting to open up the path for us here. So That's why I wanted to do this documentary to show that it is possible, and if we fight and if we are together, we can have a better life in the future, an equal life.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and I'm glad I can screen your film in the festival.
Thank
And Taylor, you also obstacles were less violent and intense, but you were also in a very odd state, waiting to be a donor, or waiting not to be a donor, and you kind of also had to keep a certain standard of living, didn't you? You couldn't like do things like smoke and drink, and you didn't know if the effort would lead to anything. So, kind of what kept you kind of like on a steady path and focused on this possible goal while you were making this and going through this process?
Yeah, and like one thing that I did not include in the film, but looking back, I'm like, the personal is important. During this time, I had met my partner, and my cat was dying, so there was just like a lot going on all at the same time. But for me, I would just say like leaning on emotional support from friends is really important. I was kind of it was during the Delta variant for COVID. So it was, the big thing was like, I can't get COVID. I canceled the vacation because I was afraid of getting COVID on the airplane the week before. So I would say it was just a lot of like resetting, talking to my mom, and just trying to like stay positive, and like trying to like feel not, I felt a lot of main character syndrome, but trying to not feel like that, I would say.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was such a strange journey, and about we don't hear this story about it really in organ donation, about what it takes, everything about what it takes to donate, and you might not even have to donate. So once
Yeah.
again, thank you. And yes, since we kind of already kind of have to more wind down the discussion, I want to ask all of you something I've really tried to investigate through all these interviews. And I want to start with you, Graciela, and move on to the rest, because in a time when being an artist is increasingly, doing anything artistic is increasingly becoming kind of a luxury and unsustainable for the vast majority of people who want to create and have talent, um, what motivates you? What motivates you to keep going? Graciela, I'd like to start with you.
It's a hard question.
As a film critic, writer, I know it.
Ah, I don't know uh, what would I be if I wasn't an artist. I have a I My graduation was in as a nutritionist in a public health institution. So I try not to seek this path, but I couldn't. It's something that inside of me, and we have to fight and find ways of surviving. And each time is different. And sometimes we get very tired because um, it depends a lot of the government. Sorry,
Depends a lot on
it
what.
it depends a lot of the politicians,
Yes, it
and the
does.
politics around. And sometimes we have the whole society against you because you don't value nothing. But everybody likes to hear a very good music. Everybody likes to see a lot of good films, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And to develop a drug, you need to do a lot of mistakes. And then we have the drug to cure the disease. And it's the same as in the arts, but we don't have space to commit error. So that's the thing that I feel that's the most difficult. You're not able to do wrong. You always get right.
So familiar, but thank you. And Jennifer, same question. What keeps you going in today's environment?
First of all, Graciela, I love your energy. It's really, I can feel it all the way here in the cold north. So I think that we have some of the same issues here in Denmark. But for myself, so didn't plan on making film either. Hassan was the first film, and then in the period where I was filming that, I created two other films, and I started off just filming with my iPhone. And then all of a sudden, the crew grew, and then we got more professional cameras and gears. But what I found was the lack of representation. People hadn't seen themselves. And now I work as a diversity consultant on the side as well, and I do art exhibitions. Everything isn't like in the low budget end, but what I see is people seek find themselves being represented. They want to see through the same shaping of identity. With the film with Hassan and the talks that we've been doing along with the film, I get to see my audience, and every time is heartbreaking and then at the same time really healing to see people seeing themselves in just a fraction of Hassan's story. We've seen many films or people in the system, but as I tried to do with this film, I lack the complexity of being a human being. I lack the not as friendly feeling sometimes, being irritated, being disappointed that the majority are allowed to have, but all of a sudden you have this beautiful black man who's born and raised in Denmark, speaks Danish, but is not seen as a Danish citizen, and then trying to find his struggle and his way into finding out what kind of person is he. And when we were talking about the name for the film, the reason why it's called Almost Happy is gaining Danish citizenship happiness. The film ends when he gets the Danish. So the question just lingers for the audience, but also it lingers for the conversation that we have afterwards. What does it mean? What does it mean to belong somewhere? Finally, is that the happiness? What comes after? What kind of emotions overwhelms you when you finally have paper on you belong somewhere? And then besides that, it's just, yeah, the topics of identity and belonging. I think that's something that art is capable of portraying, making 3D all the way around from the beginning to. This is a film about Hassan, but at the same time, I spent 4 years and my career changed drastically. So his journey is my journey, but I had a journey at the same time. So it went from being his life I portrayed for it to now be our project that we now work for being implemented in Danish for educational purposes. So what started off as a conversation between two people in terms of what is the country, why is the gap so big between us, and now we're actually trying to make the gap smaller with a short film where half of the material is filmed on an iPhone. Yeah, so I think that's what art is capable of doing. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what came to mind.
Yeah, I think you did. Thank you. And Francisca, same question. What keeps you going?
I think it's an education purpose, maybe. I think I was born to do this. This is my main purpose in life. And like I said before, like other women opened this path for me. I want to open this path for next generation of women and girls. It's very funny because there are still not a lot of women in this industry, especially in smaller productions. Normally, I'm always the only woman, at least director. Very funny story. I have an assistant man. When we arrive everywhere, people always talk to him first, and and then when I start
I can see
organizing
that.
everything, when I start conducting interviews, people at first they get a little weird, but then they get used to it. So maybe for the next girl, for the next women who goes there, these people are going to be used to looking at the women in maybe a higher rank. I hope so. That's why I'm here. That's because I think I have a lot of inner strength to deal with. with not being looked at first and just to impose my position. So women can have this opportunity without having fear. Um, that's why I do this, is to just to open the path that other women opened for me before.
Thank you so much. And Taylor, same question. What keeps you going doing this?
Yeah, first of all, sorry for the cat cameo again.
Oh no,
But
who minds the cat cameo? I hope
Exactly.
none of us here.
But I've been thinking a lot about this. I sometimes, as an artist, you get so caught up in the rat race of like, feels like everyone else is having more success than me. I'm not making, like, it's so hard to make money off of this. And I kind of had a mindset shift where I was like, I'm not trying to pursue every opportunity and like drop everything and try to like make it. I'm just trying to like make art make my life bigger. And so if I can leverage those opportunities and meet people and just like have new experiences, I think that's what keeps me going. And I think just like a genuine desire to enjoy creating and just kind of like blocking out all of the crap. And I've been listening to Beth Pickens' book Make Your Art No Matter What, and there's a really great line about how like it can seem selfish to just like make and make and make, but someone out there is going to be happy that you made it's going to impact someone. So I think just kind of like having a reset and thinking more about like the larger picture and the down the road rather than the immediate gratification.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And on that note, since we have to wrap things up here, I'd like to ask each of you what projects you have upcoming. Graciela, can we start with you?
I have a very big project, big in a way of the sense of the project, because I want to do a project about sexual education for women. Because we have a lot of issues here in Brazil, as Francisca said. We have kids that are marrying with adults, and we have kids getting pregnant, and we have a lot of things, and nobody talks about it. And I feel that we as filmmakers, we had a lot of responsibility and creating the imaginary world. So we have to be inclusive, and we have to talk about topics important for our lives. So that's my next project. And it's very, very hard to get a found. So let's see.
Best of luck to you. And yeah, thank goodness we don't have any of those problems in the States.
Important. Unfortunately, yes, I think everywhere.
Yeah. Jennifer, what projects do you have coming up next?
I am working on a documentary about Black women's sexuality in a wide Danish post-colonial context. Ooh. And I got funded last year by the Danish Art Institution. Yeah, because we have an ugly story. Denmark used to be, I think, the 7th biggest colony. Yeah.
Sorry.
So
the internet went out. What about? I didn't get all that.
I think that Denmark used to be the biggest colony in terms of owning, like.
Wow.
In the West Indies.
That's not something you hear about, no.
No, I'm pretty sure now. I know that I'm being recorded, so yes, I'm pretty. Otherwise, you need to get me back, edit it out. But yeah, it's a pretty big deal. And then I'm curious to see how that perspective of owning Black bodies has drizzled down into the generation that we have now. Also, because we have big issues with discrimination and racism. As I said before, Denmark is the 4th most racist country towards Black people. A new report came out last year that showed that 84% of people with ethnic minority backgrounds have experienced discriminated. 38% want to leave Denmark because of it. So racial issues that we don't talk about.
Yeah, and also don't hear that about Denmark too often.
Yes. And
Thank
as
you
a Black
for
woman, I experienced weird ways of being hit on. People whisper into your ear that they usually don't like Black women, but they could do me. It's just, yeah. So
I think they think that's
this,
flattering.
yeah, it's
Ew.
it's crazy. So this project has actually been the hardest one so far, because the other ones I've been looking at other people, but this time this film is also very much about myself. And ever since I started the developing process, it's just been actually pretty difficult to figure out the storyline, because there's a lot, and also in terms of what kind of partner I'm interested in finding out. Can I feel comfortable in the presence of a white partner, or do I need to look into an ethnic or another ethnic background in terms of avoiding the the racism that comes with being taught in whiteness and the Eurocentric perspective?
Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing all these hopefully come to fruition. Thank you.
Yeah, it will
Francisca?
take 4 years time, but
Oh boy.
at least, yeah.
Fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
Francisca?
So right now I'm producing a documentary about sustainable eating, mainly on how we need to eat better, because we are having a very big problem with obesity in the world, and people stop cooking, people stop eating locally sourced food. So this is a documentary about the importance of cooking, of knowing your ingredients, on how processed food is bad for you, on how to locally source your ingredients, and mainly the importance on as a family to cook together, to spend time together eating, and to teach that to kids as well, because people stop cooking and people just are just eating fast food and ordering food and forgetting the importance that cooking and eating is the main source of being human. So this is something to teach to teach again the importance of having meals together and cooked by the family.
Thank you. Yes, also very important. And again, Taylor, then we'll probably say our goodbyes. We definitely.
Thank you. So I am taking a little break from filmmaking. I'm working in a lot of different mediums right now. I have gotten into weaving, so I've been making woven tapestries, and then I take still life photographs of them with like random crap in my studio. And I got a grant to go to Vancouver for a jacquard weaving workshop, which is like a computerized loom that does photorealistic type work. And so I'm turning those photos into weavings, and I'll be going in a month.
Oh, that sounds really fun actually.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Very fun, very experimental, and very on par for what I've seen from you. Because yeah, this
Yes,
isn't the
thank you.
first year you've had a film in the festival.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me. Thank you for your films. Yes, it's been so lovely knowing that I've been contributing to spreading your stories to a wider audience. And yes, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea,
Happy
for
Sunday.
everything.
Thank you
Bye.
so much for the
Thank you.
space. I love to meet everyone here.
Yeah.
Very powerful women. Let's conquer the world.
Yes.
Let's